The first time Marcus Ellison drove down Route 141 at dusk, he didn't wear the suit. He wore an old gray hoodie, plain jeans, and sneakers so clean they squeaked on the gas pedal. The dashboard light flickered on and off as rain tapped at the windshield in soft, stuttering rhythms. Jefferson County at this hour looked like any other pocket of America people forget exists: strip malls with neon signs half-lit, old gas stations with cracked concrete, billboards promising injury settlements and cheap auto insurance. Marcus didn't mind the rain. He welcomed it. Rain made people hurry, it made them sloppy. And sloppy was where the truth leaked out. In the passenger seat, his phone rested on a folded map, recording every mile. Not that he needed the map. Marcus had committed every road to memory, every speed trap, every gas station camera, every place where complaints had been filed but never investigated. He rolled to a stop at a light and glanced at the rearview mirror. No cars. Just an empty stretch behind him, the ghost reflection of his own eyes staring back. He looked tired, but not the kind of tired you cure with sleep. The kind that settles into the bones when you've seen the same mistakes repeat for 20 years. He drummed his fingers once on the steering wheel, thinking of Denise's voice on the call that morning. "We're greenlit. Granger wants you visible, but only just enough to see who takes the bait." He'd chuckled at that. Visible. Black skin under a hoodie on a Missouri backroad, how much more visible could you be? 2. Marcus, before the badge. 25 years ago, Marcus Ellison was just another kid in North St. Louis with a mother who never stopped believing he'd make it out. She didn't live to see his badge, or the degrees, or the tiny corner office he barely used back in D.C. What she did see was enough. Marcus at 14, calm but burning, sitting at the kitchen table at midnight with a beat-up civics textbook and a notepad half-filled with names he couldn't yet spell right: Thurgood Marshall, Constance Baker Motley, Charles Hamilton Houston. Every time she saw that list, she'd nod at him and say, "They fought smart. You fight smart too." Smart had gotten him here, the undercover cases, the quiet ones that didn't make headlines. The ones that did. He hated those. They missed the point. It was never about Marcus being the hero. It was about proving how easily truth got buried when no one with power bothered to dig. 3. The plan, Granger's gamble. 3 weeks before the stop, Director Samuel Granger called Marcus into a windowless meeting room in D.C. The walls smelled like stale coffee and cheap paint. Granger, who looked like the ghost of old law enforcement, bald, broad shoulders, eyes half shut like he was always listening for a lie, sat with a single file on the table. Denise Hall was there too, blazer pressed, curls pinned back, glasses perched low. She'd been Marcus's inside link for over a decade, the quiet engine behind more than one sting that made national headlines. Granger slid the file forward with one finger. Didn't say a word. Marcus opened it. Complaints. Stacks of them. All stamped with "resolved, no action." Names, dates, dashcam links that mysteriously didn't play. Granger finally spoke, his voice a low rumble. "They think nobody's watching. Time to prove them wrong." Denise cut in, sharp as ever. "We're not just after a couple bad stops. We're testing the roots. If the tree's rotten, we show it to the world." Marcus flipped a page. Another page. Same pattern. Same language, subject failed to comply. Verbal interference. No video available. He closed the file. Looked at Denise. "If I get pulled over. You will get pulled over." She said it without blinking. He nodded once. "Then I'll give them every chance to do it right." Granger's mouth twitched, his version of a smile. "That's why you're the one I called. 4. The family, the unseen armor." The night before he left for Missouri, Marcus called his sister, Lillian. She lived in Atlanta now, a single mother with a teenage son who asked too many questions for his own good. They never talked about work. She hated what he did, not because she didn't believe in it, but because she knew exactly how thin the line was between the badge and the casket. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm but wary. "You packed?" He was folding shirts while she asked. A suit bag lay open on the bed beside an old framed photo of their mother, faded smile caught forever in a yard that didn't exist anymore. "I'm packed," he said. "You gonna be smart?" He laughed softly. "Always. You gonna come back?" He paused then, looking at the suit bag. The silver tie pin. The shoes polished to mirrors. "Always," he lied. 5. Rain and routine. Back on Route 141, Marcus watched the light turn green and nudged the car forward. The rain was heavier now, streaking the windshield like chalk lines. He could feel it, the weight in his chest that told him tonight might not be it, but it was coming. He pulled into a gas station. Paid cash. Didn't look at the young clerk who barely glanced at him in return. He stepped back out under the buzzing neon sign and leaned on the hood while the tank filled. He checked his phone, recording still rolling, signal bouncing to the cloud. He saw his reflection in the gas station window, the hoodie, the tired eyes, the drip of water from the brim of his cap. If they stopped him tonight, they'd see a black man in the rain with out-of-state plates and questions. Perfect. 6. Denise's Stakeout. Across town, Denise sat in a rental car parked under a broken streetlight, tapping notes on her tablet. Her hands shook a little when she paused to sip bad coffee from a gas station cup. She hated the waiting. The silence that settled when Marcus was in the field and she was stuck behind glass. But she was the safeguard, the witness. If he didn't check in every 30 minutes, she'd pull the cord. She'd done it before for other agents. She prayed tonight she wouldn't have to do it for Marcus. She checked her watch. Another 10 minutes and he'd ping her. He always did. She trusted him more than she trusted the badge pinned to her coat pocket. 7. A signal in the dark. At 10:32 p.m., Marcus pulled onto a side road and cut the engine. The rain was a steady drumbeat now. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing slow, listening to the night, the hiss of tires on wet asphalt far away, the low hum of a transformer behind the trees, the thrum of his own pulse. He reached for his phone and tapped the secure line. One ring. Denise answered. "You good?" "I'm good." "Anything?" "Not yet. They'll come." She swallowed. He could hear it. "Don't be a hero, Marcus." He smiled into the darkness. "Heroes die broke, D. I'm just here to watch." 8. The quiet before. Somewhere down the highway, two young deputies leaned on the hood of a cruiser, bored out of their minds. They cracked jokes about pizza and football scores, not knowing they'd be the punchline for the country in a week's time. Their radios squawked. A dispatcher's voice droned about a taillight, a side street, a routine check. They didn't know Marcus Ellison's name yet. They didn't know he'd already written theirs in a little notebook that would find its way to a federal file by sunrise. They stubbed cigarettes under the drizzle. Climbed back into the cruiser. Flipped on the lights. It had begun. Point 1. Jefferson County Courthouse, dawn. The courthouse woke up before the sun did. A bitter wind pushed rain against the stone steps, old water stains crawling like veins through the limestone. Inside, the corridors smelled of coffee burnt to tar, floor wax that never quite hid the dirt, and something older. The stale echo of small secrets spoken too softly to matter. In courtroom 2B, the janitor muttered under his breath as he mopped the scuffed linoleum. He paused near the defense table where Marcus would soon sit. He squinted at the name on the docket pinned to the judge's bench. Marcus Ellison. Didn't ring any bells. Just another name, another mop trail. At the same moment, Judge Ronald Beck sat in his chambers, swirling milk into stale coffee with a chipped pen. He read the file again, the charges, the incident report, the words that stacked up like a wall: non-compliant. Verbal interference. Obstruction. He looked over his half-moon reading glasses at his own reflection in the dark window. 62 years old. 20 years on this bench. And in all that time, he'd stopped hoping for surprises. The system didn't reward them. Surprises made people ask questions, and questions made people uncomfortable. Better to nod, stamp, and send the file away. He rubbed his eyes, tossed the pen into the mug, and stood. He had no idea the storm waiting behind that plain door. 2. Marcus, ready for the noise. Marcus arrived early. Not so early that it looked rehearsed, but early enough to make them wonder why he wasn't rattled. He stepped out of the county transport van in the same suit he'd laid out 2 nights before, the gray one his sister teased him about, the one his mother would have called his Sunday best. Shoes still shined like secrets. Inside, 2 bailiffs tried not to stare as they uncuffed him. He flexed his wrists once, a quiet ritual, a promise to himself that his hands would never forget the feeling of steel, even if this worked. He scanned the benches, mostly empty now except for the young deputies who sat like smug gargoyles, uniforms crisp, laughs soft but sharp. He caught their eyes. Held it just long enough. Didn't blink. He sat. Folded his hands. Waited. 3. Denise, the uninvited witness. Denise Hall slipped through the back door 15 minutes before the hearing. No badge on display, no folder in her hand yet. Just a worn leather purse pressed tight under her arm. She chose a spot in the 3rd row. Alone. She preferred it that way, no whispers, no polite nods. She wanted every word clean, every glance visible. She texted Granger, "He's in. Room quiet. They don't know yet." Granger's reply came seconds later, "Stay cold. Let him handle it. Pull the pin only if you must." She turned her phone off. Folded her hands in her lap. Watched the door swing open as the judge walked in, robes brushing the scuffed floor like a ghost's trailing hem. 4. The deputies, cocky before the drop. Officers Troy Keegan and Blake Harmon sat shoulder to shoulder like 2 kids waiting to tattle. Keegan chewed gum that cracked every time he spoke. Harmon tapped his knee in an anxious staccato but kept his grin stretched wide. Keegan leaned in, voice low. "Guy looks like he's about to pitch stocks on Wall Street." Harmon snorted. "You hear him last night? Asking for badge numbers. Quoting policy." Keegan's gum popped. "Yeah. Real cute. Let's see if he quotes it wearing orange." Behind them, Denise didn't flinch. She didn't have to. She knew every file on both men, the half-forgotten complaints, the audio clips with words that never made it to the chief's desk. She could recite them from memory if asked. 5. The opening show. When the judge called the room to order, the place fell into that uneasy hush only old courthouses know, the hush of lives about to be stamped or spared by the bored turn of a gavel. Judge Beck's voice droned through the charges. He barely looked up at Marcus at first, reciting legal code like reading a grocery list. Obstruction. Non-compliance. Verbal interference. Words that landed heavy in the stale air, hanging there with the smell of wet coats and cold sweat. "Mr. Ellison, do you have counsel present?" Marcus's voice cut the hush like a warm knife through butter, calm, low, steady. "I waive my right to counsel, Your Honor. I'll speak for myself." A ripple. Seats creaked. Someone coughed, a single sharp bark that died quick. The judge looked up then, really looked. Saw the suit. The polish. The calm that didn't belong to a cornered man. "You sure about that?" "Yes, Your Honor." Behind him, Keegan and Harmon grinned like they'd heard the best punchline. "Dead man talking," Harmon muttered. 6. Rebecca Tinsley, the prosecutor who thought she knew. Rebecca Tinsley rose when the judge gave her the floor. 34, fresh off a run of slam-dunk prosecutions, hair pulled back so tight it tugged at her temples. She'd stayed up half the night reviewing the dashcam files, or what passed for them. She didn't need them, really. The paperwork was airtight, the officers reliable, the defendant just another smart mouth who'd overplayed his hand. She cleared her throat. Projected her voice like her law professor taught her. She called Marcus combative. Said he escalated. Said he failed to follow lawful orders. She pointed at the glitchy dashcam clips, the ones that fuzzed out just as voices rose. Every word was a brick laid carefully in the wall she thought would hold. Marcus sat still. Not a flinch. Not a single tap of his finger. Behind him, Denise tilted her head, just enough to catch Keegan and Harmon's reflection in the polished wood railing. The way they slouched back, legs wide, grinned steady. They didn't know how thin the floor under them really was. 7. Marcus speaks. When Rebecca finished, the judge turned to Marcus. You may respond. Marcus stood. Buttoned his jacket with slow, deliberate fingers. Stepped forward. No notes. No folder. Just his voice. Your Honor, I want to remind this court that a traffic stop doesn't grant permission to abandon procedure. A sigh from the back. Keegan snorted. Marcus didn't look at them. His eyes swept the gallery, the single mother with a baby in her lap. The older man with a cane leaning heavy on his shoulder. The high school kid in the corner who should have been at home but sat here instead, eyes wide, learning the wrong lessons. He laid it out flat. How the taillight was dim, not broken. How he asked, calm, for clarification. How he requested badge numbers. How he stayed seated, hands on the wheel, recording every word. He spoke the truth so simply that it hung in the air like smoke, impossible to swat away. 8. The hush before the hammer. The judge lifted a hand, more to steady his own breath than to stop Marcus. The deputies shifted, squirmed, not laughing now. Keegan's gum stuck dry to his teeth. Then Marcus paused. Looked straight at them. I asked them what law required me to exit my car for a dim taillight. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. He didn't say the rest yet. He didn't need to. The words crawled under the judge's skin. The judge who hadn't looked a defendant in the eye in years unless they wore a tie. In the back row, Denise closed her eyes for a heartbeat. The envelope in her purse pressed warm against her ribs. 9. The envelope. When Marcus finished, he turned, not to the judge but to Denise. Their eyes met. She stood. Stepped forward. Pulled the white envelope out like it was just another piece of mail, but it might as well have been a grenade. She handed it to the bailiff. Sat back down. No word. No smile. No warning. The judge took it. Broke the seal with slow fingers. The courtroom didn't breathe. And as the judge read, the deputies stopped pretending to smirk. Rebecca Tinsley's mouth went dry. The letterhead glowed under the harsh lights, Department of Justice. 10. The crack in the wall. Judge Beck's eyes flicked over the typewritten lines. His jaw twitched once. Twice. He read it again. Finally, he looked at Marcus, really looked. Mr. Ellison, his voice softer now, almost searching. Would you like to explain this? Marcus's shoulders didn't lift. His voice didn't break. Yes, Your Honor. That letter confirms I was operating under a sealed directive from the Department of Justice. I am the Deputy Director of Internal Affairs at the FBI. I was conducting a covert review of routine traffic stops following a rise in civilian complaints. Silence. No gum chewing now. No knee tapping. No grin. Just the sound of an old courthouse realizing it wasn't as safe as it thought.